Welcome to the very fifth edition of WTS Hangouts. Today we are joining Bruce Lee Money, the frontman of Thermal and a Quarter. As you all know, Thermal is one of India's most prolific rock bands, and they have 8 released albums. They've toured internationally, they have multiple awards, and they're known for their never say die DIY approach to everything. So today, Bruce will be joining us and we'll have the chance to ask him any questions that we may have. And the team at WTS has a whole bunch of questions, but we will also do our best to include anything that you might want to ask Bruce, who will be with us shortly.
Hello. Can you guys hear
me? Yes, finally we can. Hi, Bruce. How are you doing?
Good to see you. It's been a while.
So, Bruce, I wanted to get started right away by asking you, Thermal and a Quarter has just topped a lot of world indie music charts. What did it feel like when you first heard that you were number one on those charts?
Oh, it was pretty mental. I mean, we worked with a few people to try and get our music on radio. And they said, look, I mean, you might get some airplay, but we don't know about the charts. You don't know about these things. It just depends on, the jockeys and what they like and how they spin it and so on. But usually in a few weeks, you can expect to enter the charts, in the top 100 because it's a good song and so on. But it was really crazy when we actually debuted at number 1 on the World Indie Charts. It went straight to number 1 on the World Indie Charts, Leaders of Men. And that was really crazy. I mean, this is thousands of artists and so on. And then I think on May 20th, it was number 1 in both the World Indie and the Euro Indie charts, which again, apparently doesn't happen very much and all that. But it was crazy. And it was just so strange because the whole world was in lockdown at that point. We couldn't do a gig. It was nothing. We couldn't do anything, right? We were just sitting around saying yay and making funny faces on social media. And that was it. We couldn't do anything else. So, it was, the thing was we had a whole tour set up. From March 14th to May 15th, we had a full India tour set up and we were supposed to be doing, 7 cities. We had the venues booked, we had hotels, we had flights, everything sorted, sponsor, the works. And then, boom, it's gone, right? And March 20th, the album dropped and people are saying, did you write these lyrics like last month? I mean, what are you guys doing? What are you smoking?
Bruce, I want to ask you, so Thermal has never been afraid to be vocal about a lot of political issues, and also this applies to the scene in general, and the notorious paper police. So you've never held back in your songwriting. So have you ever received pushback for that?
Yes, I mean, we occasionally get, comments from people on our social pages saying, why are you guys doing this? I mean, why can't you just play music? Why do you have to make all these statements? Why are you getting politically involved? Why are you? And to us, that's always seemed, I mean, if we want to, be attached to the title of not just entertainer and performer, but artist, in the sense that we look at our work more from the lens of creating something that's relevant, that is in some way informed by the happenings around us, and in some way mirroring what's happening to us and all of that. Then we're aspiring to say that what we're creating is not just entertainment, but aspiring. Let's not be presumptuous and call it art, but aspiring to be art, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's always seemed like a fairly natural thing to do, which is things happen to you, things happen to people around you, things happen, in the world, things happen politically, socially. And if you are a person that is informed and reading about all those things and allowing it to impact you in some way, then it's kind of inescapable that it shows up in your artistic work. It shows up in whatever things that you create. And there's no reason to be apologetic about it. There's no reason to feel that, hey, you might lose some fans if you hold an ideology or hold a system of belief that is not agreeable to them. I mean, that's not why you're doing it, right? You're doing it because it's what you feel, it's what you experience, and you're expressing that. That's about it. It's as simple as that.
And we love that about Thamel and a Quarter. In 2012, Bruce, you guys released a triple CD. And soon after that, in 2013, you embarked on a major international tour. And that included the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. So
yes.
You did around 50 gigs over a little over a month across 4 nations. So that, and then to top it all, you came back and then you released your movie. WFWDFD, which I still don't know what that means, by the way.
I don't think we can say that in polite company, but
okay, but please
I'll just say
let me know later, because it's just killing me. I still haven't figured it out, and I tried everything in my mind, every permutation and combination, and I was like, "This. I know it's supposed to be something that can't be shared in polite company, but I haven't figured it out."
No, I don't think there are any children on the stream right now, so I can probably say what it is. It's well, you've seen the film, and you know that it's about just the thing about if you want to be an artist doing something non-mainstream or something that doesn't get you 10 million views 5 minutes after you post something on YouTube. These are the things that seem to matter these days. Then there's a kind of work ethic that's involved that is to some degrees can be perceived as being a little insane, which is you just do what it takes, whatever it takes. It doesn't matter, right? You just do it. And so the title of the film is basically Work, Fucker, Work, or Die, Fucker, Die. That's it. Okay.
That's it. Okay. But I'm so glad that you finally shared that. Thank you. It's
something that Rajiv came up with. It's a very Rajiv thing to say. And that's what it was. And we struggled with the title for quite some time. We said, what are you going to call this? I mean, it's like this weird thing, some band ranting about a bunch of shit. And so what are we going to call it? And he was, from the beginning, he had only this title. And so he said, okay, let's make it WFWDFD. Let's confuse the heck out of everybody even more. Right? So,
which you did.
That's basically it. Yeah.
But the script in that was beautifully written. I think Rajiv wrote it and you voiced it for the movie, right?
Yes, he came up with the basic premise of the whole thing. And I sort of polished it, did a bunch of work around it. And I came up with the script. And of course, I narrated it and wrote the little bits of music around it. It was a very interesting project. We'd never made a film before. And it was just, we didn't know what to do essentially. So we had Harmeet Singh, who was a fantastic photographer, who come with us along on the tour. And he initially started just shooting, still images, but very soon he was just shooting a lot of video. And so we came back with, a few 100 gigabytes of video content, right? Because we were there for it was 60 days and 50 gigs. And so you can imagine the amount of content we assembled, right? He was shooting gigs. He was shooting us busking on the streets on the Royal Mile in Edinburgh. He was shooting us flyering. And that's all the stuff you see in the video. He shot so many other performances. We watched so many other amazing, artists over there. And so when we came back, we didn't know what to do with it. Was it going to be a tour movie? Was it going to be just a showcase of the band? Was it going to be the experience of playing the Fringe? And when we looked at all the footage, there seemed to be more in there. There seemed to be a story of just artists, a story of incredibly hard, crazy work with no expectation of reward at the end of it. There seemed to be a story of just the struggle to express and to fall in love with something that might not make sense to everybody, but you just keep doing it. And why? And why go through all this pain? Why not just do something safe and simple? And all of that seemed to come out of that footage. And so that's the genesis of the film. And we've gotten a lot of comments from artists and musicians in India and abroad saying that it kind of speaks about this struggle, And the fact that you do, the Vocalist is just saying work because you love it. That's it. Exactly. Yeah. You do something not because you want to be a star. You do something because you love it. And if stardom follows, good for you. It's great. You've gotten it right. Things have fallen, the stars have aligned, and you're in a position where you put up a video and you get 5 million views instantly. But that's not for everyone, and it doesn't have to happen to everyone. It's okay. And as long as you find validity and legitimacy in your own work, and you find meaning in that, you just keep doing it. That's it.
Yeah. And the reason I brought this up, Bruce, is because, that entire section of time, that's the thermal and a quarter hustle that we're all very familiar with. So how was that whole experience, that chunk of time we did so much?
It was, it's actually, honestly, it's what's kept us going for the last 8 years. From 2013 to now, if I would have to say the one thing that inspired us to just, because in 2013, we're already 15 years or something down, right? We've already done, not 15, whatever, how many were 14 years down. And we hadn't won a Grammy yet. We didn't have, 1 billion subscribers on YouTube. We weren't making, $1 million a gig. So it's about the time that, a band can look back and say, okay, we released a few albums, people seem to like us, but we haven't hit that big time yet. So is it going to happen? Is it never going to happen? What do we do? Are we just going to keep doing what we do? Are we, there comes I think there comes a time in every artist's career when sometimes these questions are asked. Are you still relevant? Are you still making something that people want to consume? And that experience of working in the Fringe for the entire 26-night run really kind of solidified it for us, saying it doesn't matter. I mean, we love what we're doing, even if there are only 1,000 people out there who really dig it and who really connect to it, or even if there's only 10 people that do that, it's fine. And as long as we stay true to our families, to our as long as we take care of what we're expected to, right? We're all family people right now. We have responsibilities. We have things that we have to take care of. And as long as we're able to do that, what else is there? I mean, you found something you love. You found a way to make it work. Sure, you're not driving around in a new Jaguar every month, but I think we're really fortunate. I mean, I'm in this place right now. I've got these amazing instruments behind me. I've got some amazing friends, and I've got this school that we run. I speak to musicians from around the world who are keen to learn from me. What more can I ask for? Seriously, I mean, this is great. So I'd say that 2013 experience really, really filled up the tank again, man. It was top it up, and let's get the next 30 years on the road. That's it.
Absolutely. And I want to know, what inspired this whole idea of going to the Edinburgh Fringe? It's such a huge undertaking. I don't know how many people appreciate what it takes to just get to the Edinburgh Festival Fringe and perform there and get people to come attend your shows. So you want to talk a little bit about how that came
Sure. I mean, like we've always said, we've been a DIY or die kind of band. We've done everything ourselves from the beginning, because we weren't happy with how labels were working back in 2000 when we released our first albums. We did it ourselves. We printed everything ourselves. We burned the CDs ourselves, and all of that stuff. It's always been a DIY ethic, and the whole Fringe thing. When we looked it up and we looked at how the festival works, it is a very DIY festival. I mean, you make your reality at that festival, right? Sure, people are there to help you. You pay for their services. It's very clear, very transparent. There's no event manager. There's no sponsor. There's no. There's a whole bunch of ambiguous things that happen sometimes when you do gigs in India and so on. Here, it's pretty transparent. You pay for your venue. You pay for your sound. You pay for your marketing. And if you do well, if enough people come and buy tickets, you make all your money back and you come back with something in your hands, right? You win some awards, you get some good press, you get reviewers in, and that's it. right? And it was just purely merit based. If you did the right things and if you pulled in enough people to your shows every night, you did well. Simple. And those 60 gigs happened because we were playing a single gig every night at our main venue, but we were soon being invited to play at local parties. We were soon being invited to play at a school. We played at a church. We played so many other gigs because people would come into our shows and become friends and say, hey, are you guys, can you do an evening gig? Anyway, your main gig is at 8:30, so play at 6 o'clock at my place. I'll give you this much money. I'll do this for you. It was completely organic, and it was a true and honest validation of what we're doing. The reviewers that came in, we didn't know when any of them came in. They bought a ticket. They didn't call us in advance and say, can you give me a guest pass because I'm going to write about you for the Scotsman? Nothing. You don't know they're there, right? They just show up, they buy a ticket, they buy a CD if they like what you do, and they write a review. So it is, again, the most honest, transparent process of just evaluating your work, right? If you're doing well, you fill the house. If you don't do well, you don't fill the house and you don't make your money. That's it, right? And how do you fill your house in the beginning and nobody knows you, right? People aren't going to just buy a 10-pound ticket and come and watch you. So you've got to be on the mile. You've got to be talking to people. You've got to be convincing them. You've got to sell your story, right? And all these things are, I think, a necessary aspect of an artist's life. You've got to know how to sell yourself. You've got to know how to market. Just because you have this talent you're not entitled to anything. You're not entitled for a following. You're not entitled for a fortune or anything, right? You're supposed to be able to do that aspect as well. So yeah, it's all of these things really that attracted us to the festival, and it was a huge risk. We invested a lot of money to get there and to do stuff. We had a couple of sponsors on board, which really helped, obviously. But as an experience, it really validated what we were doing, and winning the Pick of the Fringe, and then the Spirit of the Fringe award, and all those things showcase you to more people. And like our main venue could hold 200 people, but the Spirit of the Fringe holds 400, right? And you're showcased there with a bunch of the best acts at the Fringe. Out of 3,000 acts, you're one of the picks, right? And so suddenly this is a huge opportunity and you make the most of it. You deliver a kick-ass gig at that time. You be nice, you talk well, you present yourself well, you be professional, you do all the right things. You have to. And if you don't, it shows. The next day you're going to have an empty house again, right? So I think every artist at some point should have an experience like that. It's really, really important to fuel your fundamental, belief in what you do, right? And the scary thing is that you might go there and you might fail. You might have, empty houses. You might end up not, making the money you invested. And that's very scary, right? It's very scary because it's a lot of money. And what do you do then? I don't know. We didn't have that experience, thankfully. But I dare say that even if we bombed at the Fringe, we'd have come back and said, yeah, screw that. We do what we do and we're just going to keep doing it. That's it. And that's the other learning from there because, sure, we had sellout nights at our main venue, but we also had nights when we were playing for 7 people, for 12 people, right? And you can't deliver any less of a show because one of those 7 people could be, the reviewer from the Edinburgh Herald. And if you do a bad gig, you're going to get a bad review. And that means you're going to have empty houses from then, right? So you just got to do it,
And the word spreads fast.
Am I talking too much?
No, you're not. This is all great. This is great. What I was saying was the word spreads fast too at the Festival Fringe where
Absolutely.
People talk to each other and, they don't show up if they kind of hear that it's not a good event to check out. Bruce, I want to ask you about the famous roach on the cover of This Is It. And we talked about this the very first time I interviewed you guys all the way back in 2011. We talked about this roach a lot. It takes a lot to survive in the industry. And What advice do you have for bands, in terms of standing the test of time? What makes Thermal and a Quarter tick?
I guess definitely a measure of craziness. There are several points in a band's life when sticking together is actually the crazy decision, right? It's, this happens when you graduate from college and maybe you have a job offer that's going to take you outside the city, and it's a really good job offer, and it's going to really advance your career and give you a lot of security and confidence and all those things. And you say no, because you have a feeling that if you leave the city at this point, coming back and trying to put the band together again is not going to happen. And for whatever reason, you've decided that the band is more important. And so you make that choice. And so you never know. I mean, so your career here may never, grow to the point that it would have if you had, but those are, again, they're up in the air kind of things. And then when you get married, and then when you have a family, and the responsibilities kind of start piling up, and you start saying, okay, how am I going to be sustainable? How am I going to make sense of this with just a musician's income, right? So are you going to start doing mainstream things to try and say that, okay, the music I'm making right now isn't really that marketable or that saleable. It's not making mass sense. So do I just change that, or do I find other routes? And this is something that I'm very thankful for now. I mean, at that, back in 2000, if you hung out with musicians and you said, man, I got to have a day job, most of them would appreciate it, but there'd also be the small segment that said, this guy's a sellout. He's not, he doesn't have what it takes to do music full time. It's, it's a failure. That's just, that's the all or nothing kind of divide that often exists with artists, right? But I dare say that the 10 years, 2000 to 2010, that we spent in corporate careers doing all manner of things. I mean, I taught English in college. I worked for a travel company. I worked for software companies doing marketing and communications. I did all kinds of things, right? But those things I did across, and that all of us did across those 10 years, really were an education in terms of a work ethic, of sustainability, of knowing how systems and processes work. Because let's face it, all these three things are very much part of running a band, right? If you don't have a work ethic, if you don't understand sustainability, if you don't understand money, if you don't understand processes, if you don't understand how an engine, right? A band is an engine, a band is a company, a band is how all of that works, you're not going to be able to keep a band together, right? These things are part of it. And I think, being in India at that time, we didn't have really a thriving ecosystem for a band like ours from 96 to 2010 even, I'd say. The ecosystem for a band like us doesn't really exist, right? And if you wanted to make a full-time living from just music, then you would kind of have to do jingles or commercial or film, all of which is great. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. It's not that I'm saying those are sellouts or whatever. That's the choice of work that you decided to do, right? That would be the way to kind of make sense of a career, make sense of fulfilling your obligations to your family and whatever else that you have. We chose to keep making the music that we did and work jobs, right? And work jobs that allowed us a little bit of freedom to practice and to tour and to gig in all of those things. And that was just our choice. It's not a right or wrong thing. You can choose other things if you like, but the choice worked out for us because we learned these things. Yeah, you got to do what it takes, and if doing what it takes means a day job that is not soul destroying, but but in some way keeps you engaged, keeps you occupied, and keeps you learning new things. I don't grudge any of the jobs that I did. Working in a college and teaching English taught me a lot of different things. Working for Microsoft or SAP or ICICI OneSource or all these big software firms, understanding their technology, understanding their marketing requirements, taught me a lot about technology. Taught me a lot about how the world was transforming at that time, right? Moving from the non-digital to an almost completely digital-dominated era. And so I don't grudge any of that time I spent. Not only did it put food on the table and keep the lights on, I learned a lot of important things, right? Not just about work ethic and money and all that, but also about the world in general and how people work and all of that. So if you want to know what keeps the TAAQ engine ticking, it's all of those things that we learned. I think we have a good work ethic. I think we understand money to some extent. We are not by any chance financial wizards or anything. We'd be in a different place if you were. We understand sustainability. We understand what it is to keep an organization going with the right processes and systems in place. And also we're just a little bit crazy. That's it.
That's awesome. Incidentally, my next question happens to be about the recent video that we released, which was a listening video for A World Gone Mad. So this is from the team, and I apologize for being crude, but they want to know, what was it like watching someone losing their TAAQ virginity?
It's really strange, but I didn't even know it was happening. You guys didn't give us a heads up or anything. I just suddenly found it.
We wanted to surprise you.
Yeah, I know. And it was on Twitter or something, and I just saw it, and I just hit the play button. I was like, this is interesting. And my wife happened to walk in, and so both of us are just watching Rob, and about 2 or 3 minutes in, both of us have these stupid grins on our faces because. What I liked most about the review was how kind of genuine and unaffected it was. It was his honest kind of, he just was listening to it for the first time and his eyes wide, and then he had this smile, and then he would go like that. And it was just, he's saying, was it as good for you as it was for me? Yeah, man, it was. Absolutely.
Glad to hear that.
We were sitting and watching you and going, and just feeling so good about the fact that he was a guy from across the world, a guy we've never met, a musician, which is an important thing, and here he was listening to something in a focused way. Now this is something very difficult to get right now, to get someone to listen to your music without distractions, without doing something else at the time, or working, or whatever else, or jogging, or whatever it is that people do, is a difficult thing these days, because music doesn't have the position it did, I'd say 30, 40 years ago, right? Music now is still important to people, but I think technology has become way more important, right? Anyway, I'm digressing. But to have that time from someone who's just going to press play and just listen, and to share his kind of spontaneous reactions to something was so nice to watch. And both my wife and I just couldn't take our eyes away, and we were like, "This is so good. This is so nice to watch," and to have him like it as much as he did. Wow, I mean, it just feels really good. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for surprising us with it, and and it was just great.
So you're going to hit your 25th year in 2021.
Next year is 25.
Yeah. And TAAQ Academy has it completed its 10-year mark?
10, yes. We're at 10 years now.
So you and Rajiv have been a constant in your evolving lineup, and also your business partners. And so clearly you like being around each other a lot. So I want to hear a little bit.
Don't be so sure about that.
I want to hear a little bit about your friendship and how the Rajiv and Bruce dynamic, a little more about that.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever spoken about that much so this is going to be interesting. Yeah, so my relationship with Rajiv goes back longer than my relationship with my wife. We've been together from late 94, early 95 when we started playing in the Christ College band. And then, 96 is when the whole thermal and a quarter thing started. And he's 2 years ahead of me in years and in career and all of that stuff. So he was already a working man when I was still graduating and so on. So it's really interesting relationship. I have to say that and I think again, the engine that makes that tick is just how different we are as people. I think we're polar opposites in many ways. He'll have, a very, very different perspective on things than I will. He will have a very different approach to doing something than I will. But there are some essentials where I think there is a lot of alignment, which I think is some of the same things, which is, we're both a little mad, I suppose, to get right into that. We understand the value of that work ethic. We understand the value of understanding how to get something done. And we've understood across the years that also that, I'm nowhere close to being the best guitar player he could work with. And he probably is nowhere close to the best drummer that I could work with. So it's not just about being really good at your core. I mean, it's good to do that. I'd say without any trace of false modesty that both of us are pretty good at our instruments and what we do. There's no question about that. But it's not like, we couldn't have tried to work with better people. And for sure, there are better people. There are better guitar players, better singers, better drummers, all that stuff. And it's sometimes those kind of things that you realize early on that, so this partner that you're working with doesn't necessarily have to be the best at everything that you want done. But he understands the core of what it is you're trying to achieve. He understands the fundamental meaning of what you're trying to do together, not just individually, but what you're trying to do together. And that sometimes is way more important than just competence at something, right? Just being really good at something doesn't necessarily make you the ideal fit into a unit, right? So, and this is something we actually discovered in college the hard way, because at one point there was this harebrained idea that some faculty members came up with to, we'd have the intra-college selection. Basically, you'd have this competition and you'd find the best guitarist, the best drummer, the best singer, the best keyboardist, and all that stuff. And so that was a competition. And so one college lecturer had this brainwave saying, see, if we put the best guitarist, the best drummer, and the best keyboardist, and the best vocalist, and the best bassist together, then the band will win all the competitions. It would be the best band. There would be no way. We would be undefeatable. We'd be invincible. It would be like, magic potion. And so, even as kids, back in college, we didn't think it was a great idea. And we said that. But of course, we were summarily overruled. And we said, no, this is the way you will be, right? You will form this band and you will win all the competitions. So sure enough, the best at everything got together. And that entire project lasted one gig because it was painfully evident from, the first few rehearsals itself that this wasn't going anywhere, right? Even though competence was assured, these are all fantastic musicians, fantastic. But that essential chemistry, that spark that you understand, hey, we believe in something very small maybe, but we believe in it together. And there's an intensity to that belief that we share. That's what's most important. It's not just competence, right? And so needless to say, that project in Christ College was aborted fairly quickly. And we went back to being with the people that believed in similar things, even though they weren't the best at what they did, So, yeah, I guess that's what's kept us together this long, is that definitely chemistry, that shared system of values, and trust in each other. There is a trust when, I've written the lyrics for most of Thermal and a Quarter songs. Rajiv's contributed a few for sure. And across the years we've had with Rudy, he wrote a few songs and so on. But it's been sort of my lyrical vision for the band. And at some level, it's about Rajiv trusting that I'll always stay true to that. And even as I evolve, there'll be something fundamental about that process that's not going to change, right? And I have the same trust when I bring a song to the table, when I bring my ideas, melodic or harmonic or lyrical or whatever. I know that I will get an honest response, and I will not just get something saying, "Oh, this guy's written all the songs, so yeah, it's cool. Let's just go ahead." It'll still be, no, I think that's all crap. This really works. That doesn't work. So there's an honesty to our interaction. There's an honesty to how the process of creation, right? Which I think is really, really important.
So do you call each other out on each other's bullshit? Because you always need that one person to keep you.
All the time. Yeah, we have major scraps and all kinds of stuff going on. But I guess that's part of a healthy relationship, right? You have to sort of have conflicts. And if you don't have conflict, then you're not moving forward very often.
Yeah, that's great. Bruce, we're at time, but I want to ask you a couple more questions, if you don't mind, before we wrap up.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
So we want more for Thermal and a Quarter, and we want it to be a name that everyone knows worldwide, and that's already happening. But we want it everybody in every home needs to know who Thermal and a Quarter is, and who Bruce Lee Money is, and who Raji is, and Leslie is. Okay, so what you have done so much, and there's nothing more that you could have possibly done as a band in the span of time that you've had, and you continue to reinvent yourself and keep yourself relevant and keep your music alive and fresh every single time you release an album. So what is the bottleneck, and what can we do to make that a reality where, your music really reaches or has the reach that it should have?
That's a really, really great question. And we've struggled with that many times across our career. And I don't know if it's one thing, but it's definitely, if we're a band at the heart of it. Sure, we run an organization now where, we have the school and we understand how an industry kind of works. But if we also had to really work the industry, we really had to, be there at the ins and outs of, making a career for yourself with the music that we make, without diluting that in any way, to take it as it is and really kind of work through the industry, work through the machine that's out there. It's a machine. It has several moving parts, several cogs, and there are several ways to understand how to make it work. And, I'd say we've never had a single person or a single organization or a single, just a single unit, just much like ourselves, who really understood what we do and found a way to really exactly what we do with reasonable alterations, with reasonable things, saying, hey, this is a radio song. Please don't give me a 15-minute, artistic exclamation point, because it's not going to work. If you can, things like that. There are some realities that we got to work with. But anyway, I'm just saying that I think what we've missed is that having a unit like ourselves with integrity, professionalism, belief, and the work ethic and all of that, to work the machine, to work the industry, to work that whole aspect of being successful, right? Sure, we've done it ourselves, but it's definitely in a limited capacity, because that's not all we do.
What's the best thing about running a music school?
I started teaching in 2002, so it's been 18 years now. Wow, that's a lot. Yeah. And, I was teaching English for a while in college, then I started teaching music. And something about that process of breaking something down and inspiring someone, not just giving them information, right? And increasingly now we notice that information really is nothing. Information is free. It's available everywhere. It's it's a click of a button away, right? Which wasn't the case when we were growing up in the 80s and 90s in school and college. Information was difficult, right? If I wanted a transcription of a solo I wanted to learn, I couldn't get it. I had to wait for someone to courier a copy of Guitar Player or, fax them or some crap like that to actually access the information, right? So information was, and so all of our teachers also, I mean, God bless them, but, through school and college, the teachers that inspired me can be counted on the fingers of one hand. The ones that went beyond information to inspiration, right? To providing context, perspective, stories, and all of those, the information rich. It's not just data, right? So, and that's the process of teaching that still fascinates me. How to get from information to inspiration, right? And I guess across the last 18 years of doing it, I'm on that journey. I don't know. I can't.
Somebody wanted to know about your skincare routine, Bruce. There was a question.
What? Me?
Yeah. There was like, can you tell us something about your skincare routine? Is there one? That isn't one. That's a secret, you guys.
Well, I guess, like my wife says, moisturize.
How do you feel about the scope of a teacher in this pandemic?
Oh, I think it's only become so much more important to have the right guides in this time. It's a scary time for everyone, and it's really important to have, to really have the right kind of thinking to help you through, And people keep saying, stay safe, don't get sick. But it's so important to stay safe in your head, to understand how to think through something like this. And so I think, good teachers have only an even more important role to play.
Mm-hmm. Bruce, are you considering Edinburgh Festival Fringe again, maybe 2021, 2022? Or is that too big?
We did this year. We wanted to do the Fringe this year after our tour. Of course, really? That's not happened. Yeah, we wanted to do it again. We hatched the plot in February and we said March, we'll start working on it. And then March, of course, the Ides of March changed everything again. I hope we can. I'd love to do it again.
Great. If you are there, we'll be there covering your gig. So.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you again for joining us, Bruce. This was so incredible to hear so many new things. I've interviewed you guys a lot. So a lot of new things were uncovered today. So thank you for taking the time to answer all of our questions.
Thank you. I really want to tip of the hat to you guys for doing this and for your clear and unabashed honesty and love for music and what we do. So thanks for that. It really makes a difference. It really again tops up the tank a little more and saying, keep doing this, guys. It's fine.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you so much, everyone who joined us today. If you have more questions for Bruce, please send them to us. We will make sure he gets them and find a way to get the answers to you. Have a great rest of your day and see you soon.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for joining. Take care of yourselves.
Take care, Bruce. Bye-bye.